Hello students, welcome to Physics Wallah. I am Harpreet Singh and I am going to take you to the wonderful world of anthropology. Today we are going to basically see or get an overview of what anthropology is, what were the advantages of anthropology, and what have been the constraints of anthropology as an optional till now, and how PW is going to change that perspective. What the basic advantage of anthropology in comparison to the other optionals is that maximum questions are generally repeated from the previous years. What happens is, if I take the 500 marks and if I see the previous year questions, that includes not only basically 10 years, if you take the 20-30 years booklet of the previous year questions, out of them close to 250 to 275 at least are from the previous year. What happens is, generally UPSC is now doing or trying to do his thing is that they are picking questions from 1980s also, 1970s also. So we think that they are not previous year, but actually they are the previous year questions that are coming now. Second basic or most important advantage is, unlike the other optionals in which current affair centric optionals are there and you generally have issues what to study or which current affair to leave, this is basically more of content or book related and optional, where if you have the content properly, your notes are made well, you can score really very well, provided you understand the logic and revise it many times. Along with it, it is a beautiful mix of your physical dimension related to biology also, cultural dimension, archaeological dimensions. So it's basically a mix of all. That is why we define anthropology as a study of human beings. When you're studying a human, you study basically every dimension of him. You want to study the historical dimension, how you evolved, the archaeological dimension covers that. You're going to study the events associated with your culture, be it religion, kinship, marriage, and various dimensions associated with them. Also, the tribal studies, the sociological dimension, and various other dimensions are going to be studied in this syllabus. Now, when we study anthropology, till now, the major constraint has been that in or across India also, you did not have a faculty which could have covered the syllabus holistically. At PW, what we're going to do is, we're going to take every topic in depth. We're going to have proper doubt sessions for you. We're going to have classes from Monday to Friday. Weekly doubt session are going to be there, so that any problem or issue that arises in your head, that can be solved. In today's lecture, what we're going to do is, we're just going to overview or see what the syllabus of anthropology is. And just an overview in a sense, what books can be referred. See, when we're going to start with the lectures, every topic, before I start, I'm going to tell you what are the books associated with it. But in today's lecture, just an overview, so that I introduce you to the world of anthropology. What anthropology is, what is the syllabus, so that you get aware of what anthropology is. And remember students, when you're probably listening to this lecture of the overview, have a PDF open where you have the previous year questions also, so that you will just get a feel of how the questions are being asked, right? So let's start with the basic overview of the anthropology optional and how PW is going to change your perspective with respect to the optional by bringing you a comprehensive course, unlike other places where you generally miss out the various topics and it is not covered. Over here, we're going to comprehensively cover the various dimensions of the optional and help you understand them and enjoy the learning, right? So the optional basically, again, as like other optionals, you have two papers, paper 1 and paper 2, each 250 marks. And in this optional, unlike the other options like geography and all, which have section A and section B, we do not have this in our optional. So what happens is that you need to comprehensively cover the syllabus, because any question can be asked up and down irrespective of the section, right? In the paper, you will be having section A and section B, but the syllabus itself is not divided into section A, section B. So a topic over here can be asked in section A of a paper 1 also and section B of the paper also. So simply you need to be well versed with the content and the syllabus. Students, remember what happens is, we simply begin with the studying the optional without actually learning or seeing the syllabus. So first important step that you need to do is, if you are interested in the anthropology optional, you should have a printed syllabus in front of you or in front of your desk, which you keep on seeing every day. What happens is that when you see the syllabus, now it gets stored in your head, and every time when you see certain things, you're able to relate them with your optional, right? For example, if you're studying a particular topic, say fertility and fecundity in the optional, which we generally have as topic 11.1 and 11.3 in paper 1. So probably if you're reading something related to that with respect to policy planning or something, or a case study that is coming, you can note it down because you know the syllabus, right? So be well versed, try to read it before you start studying. Just read the syllabus and you will probably remember it well. So let's start with the syllabus. Now, a constraint with certain aspects over here is that you do not have specific books for these certain topics that are here in 11.1, 11.2, 11.3 also. But when we will start the lectures, we're comprehensively going to give you the study material, which will be enough for you, along with the lectures, which is going to complement your understanding. But remember one thing, when you study these topics, there are very important sources which generally people don't refer. That is, first is EPG Pathshala. Again, a government source in which you have a course or a syllabus also, even more than that is present. This is a government authenticated source, even the examiners refer to them. So you should be well versed with this source. That means you should have access to it, and whenever you're reading any topic, try to open it and have an overview along with the lectures that will help you. Second is your IGNOU. Now these two, just remember that most people try to avoid them. These are the most important sources for your preparation, along with certain standard books that we are going to mention along with the overview which I'm going to give you. These are online available free of cost. So keep these two things in mind. When we begin with the 1.1, 1.2, basically these are the basic introduction of what is anthropology, what is the scope, how anthropology evolved, what is the meaning of it. All these dimensions we're going to cover. But remember, these two topics, when we will study, I'm going to cover at the last when I complete paper 1. Reason being, when you have already covered all the dimensions and all the branches of anthropology, then it becomes very easy for you to understand what is the definition of anthropology and how it is related. For example, if you've studied archaeological, linguistic, everything, then it is easy to compare that particular branch with the anthropology also and various dimensions. So remember one thing, when you are studying anthropology, just for your convenience, study what is anthropology, but cover this topic at the last. This should be the last, because it is simply like an icing on the cake. When you've made all the cake, this is the icing in which you can cover the last. Again, for this only, EPG Pathshala is one of the best sources. We are going to also provide the basic updates also and various other dimensions associated with this particular topics that are there. Over here, syllabus defines this as the meaning. For example, if you're writing the meaning, many people misinterpret it like simply a definition. Now, meaning can be various aspects. A simple meaning can be there, an etymological meaning can be there, various other dimensions of meaning can be there. So how to find the various dimensions of a particular meaning also, that we're going to do in the classroom, so that you understand what the meaning is and what anthropology is, right? Scope. Then we're going to do the development also, how the optional of anthropology or the subject or discipline of anthropology is evolved. Now, very often happens is that when we do the write the development, now what happens is students think that just writing at a broad level development of anthropology would fulfill the demand. No. See, like when we are going to study this, we're going to study the development and evolution of general anthropology as a whole. Second, we would study the evolution and development of anthropology from Indian dimension, that is Indian anthropology. And also, this question has not been asked, but it can definitely be asked, which would be tribal anthropology. Write or state the evolution and development of tribal anthropology, right? Then you would be like, we to just had simply wrote an answer or made a note of development of anthropology. How come tribal anthropology has come? So see, there are hidden dimensions with respect to the syllabus that are there, right? So these we are going to basically uncover. right? So that would be easy for you. This will actually happen when we cover or start the lectures. In that, these various dimensions would be revealed and what has to be followed, the way approach has to be done, and how you can understand it better. That would be done in detail. Today's lecture is basically more about revealing what the syllabus is and how you can approach it, right? Now, similarly, with respect to discipline, various sciences like behavioral sciences, social sciences, earth sciences. When you're reading earth sciences, it involves geology, geography. So there are various further sub-subjects also in that. So there has to be a proper structure for even differentiating. Whenever the concept comes a relationship, and very often the questions are asked, find the relationship between anthropology as a discipline and, for that matter, say earth sciences. What happens is, we do not structure it well. You need to structure your answer well. For example, you define what the science is, you define what anthropology is. Then even if it is not asked, you need to write what are the commonalities there. Then you need to write what are the various differences in there. In the differences also, you need to have a proper segregation. For example, what are the methodologies followed for various disciplines? What is the scope? Certain examples also. What are the various dimensions associated? What are the sub branches of both the disciplines? So you need to have a particular set criteria, and in that you can fit the various branches, and it will be easy for you to remember. When we'll study this, I'll explain you in detail how it has to be done, right? Now, various branches. Basically, Francis Bode had classified anthropology into 4 field branches, like the socio-cultural, biological anthropology. Biological anthropology is also called the physical anthropology. Then you have the archaeological dimension. Then you have the linguistics. There's another branch which is a last topic of paper 1, that is the applied, that we will obviously cover when we're going to study that. So these are the sub branches. Now see, this is the first topic. Now we are going to actually study each dimension in detail, right? So remember one thing, when you're going to start anthropology, or when we're going to start the lectures, in the starting, we are just going to mention what is anthropology and a brief. We're going to basically start with the socio-cultural dimension, and later, once paper 1 is complete, then we'll come on to this part, because you've already, that time you would have already covered the linguistic part, archaeology and everything. So you don't have to actually go through it. You already have the material with you. You just need to put it in a proper form or the proper presentation. So this topic of unit 1 is going to be covered in the last, right? So let's move on to the next part. This is 1.4, human evolution and the emergence of man. See, this part basically covers a lot of theoretical part. Again, for this, EPG Pathshala is the very good source, along with P. Nath for physical anthropology. This is also a good book, a thick book. You don't have to learn everything from that. You have to use it when and where it is required, right? Along with it, I'm mentioning one more book. See, this book is a reference book, Ember and Ember, right? This book, remember, is a reference book. This book is a wonderful book in the sense that when sometimes topics of linguistic anthropology or various cultural evolution, you can get a lot of case studies from this book. And sometimes if you do not understand a topic, you can understand or take reference of this book. Do not take it as a book that you need to study every day. It is a reference book. There is a difference between P. Nath and this. This is book you have to study properly. Not everything, but study properly. This is a reference book, right? Make a note of that well. When we are doing this biological and cultural factors in the human evolution, see again, any topic when you need to study in anthropology or any question that comes, right? In paper 1, make a point. You need to add the biological aspect and the cultural aspect. For example, let's say if a human being is evolving, right? You need to mention the biological dimension, how probably the size, the cranial capacity increased, how the toe development, the feet development took place, what were the various changes taking place in the body. But along with this, you need to mention the cultural dimension. For example, what type of tools were being used, what type of food that was being eaten, what were the type of shelters where the human being was living. So various aspects have to be mentioned along with that, right? So it's very, very important that we consider or take into cognizance both the physical as well as the cultural dimension, right? And this is well covered in EPG Pathshala. Make sure you open it and read it properly, right? Along with it, even IGNU can be used, but after you have referred EPG Pathshala. See, these are those stuff or notes which I'm mentioning as an aid to you to the lectures that we give. When you have delivered a lecture, you have your stuff also what to read. See, I could have mentioned tens of books over here, but these are standard books because these are written by the professors of Delhi University, Jawaharlal Nehru University, and these are the people who make the paper, right? So it's important because they make the paper from them also. So you refer to these standard sources of the government of India, right? Then theories of organic evolution. It has been defined pre-Darwinian, then the Darwinian theories, post-Darwinian, where we're going to study the various theories related to synthetic theory and a brief outline. What are the various evolutionary concepts that are there? See, again, there are various concepts like Dawes, Rose, Kopru. They're not relevant, but because we are studying them, we have to see an evolution, how it has taken place. So we're going to study all that. Again, these are well defined in PNAT. Again, it is well defined in EPG Pathshala. So this is a very important topic. If we take it from a weightage point of view, every year close to 20 to 30 marks questions are generally asked from this section. So it becomes actually very important. For a few years, less number of questions are being asked, but again, recently questions on synthetic theory has come and they keep on asking these rules very often, right? In the 10 markers. For example, they might ask what is parallelism and convergence, right? Very often it is asked. Then people simply write the definition because they have not read it well. Important is you define them, right? You see the similarity. What are the similarities between them? What are the differences between these two concepts? Then you give the case study. Then you mention about certain examples that are there. And then again, the contemporary relevance. When the relevance comes, you need to mention the biological relevance. You need to mention the cultural relevance of that. And then your answer becomes complete, right? Similar step has to be done with the other dimension. Next is 1.5 is characteristics of the primates. Now over here we're going to see what are the primates, what are the characteristics, how we have evolved, what are the behavioral nature of the primates and all, because this is being studied for the sense in order to study human being, you need to study our ancestors also, right? What are the similarities, and that dimension helps us to study us better. That is why the concept or topic of primate has been there, right? Like the evolutionary trends, taxonomy. In the taxonomy, we're going to see what is the place of human being in that taxonomy, right? Along with it, primate adaptations, how the primates have evolved, because certain primates are like on the ground, certain are hanging on the forest. What are the differences? Why is the reason some are there, some are here? How they are different from the human beings? So this all we're going to study, like arboreal, terrestrial, primate taxonomy. Again, we have done in the primate behavior. Like for example, you would be seeing certain monkeys sitting and taking out lice from the heads of each other. What is the reason behind it? How does it help in social bonding between those monkeys, right? So these are certain things we are going to do along with the classificatory things or major living primates that are there. Now again, see, there is an issue with this topic is that we often consider this topic little difficult. Why? Because there is a lot of rote learning. When we're going to do this topic, we'll make it easier for that. We are going to use certain mnemonics, which will make your understanding very easy, and so that you can remember the whole concept well. Because this topic has been asked repeatedly, because in order to make a question a little difficult, they can ask a taxonomy question. It has been asked earlier. So with those mnemonics, it will be easy for you to understand and remember. Last is in this topic is the skeletal changes due to the erect posture. Now this is the most important question that you should actually prepare when you're doing answer writing. See, you should have notes on every topic that is mentioned in the syllabus, at least 1-page note, because you never know what can be asked. Once you have that 1-page note, what happens is that it becomes easier for you to recollect, provided you revise it many times. This is one topic that every alternative year you will get erect posture. What are the changes taking place in the body? What is the relevance of the erect posture? This topic always comes. So it is one of those topics that you should be ready with 20 markers for this, right? So next, move on to the next part, that is the phylogenetic status, characteristics and geographical distribution of the following. Now this is that aspect which you probably, if you have studied in school, you'll be studying in 6th, 7th also. That time you just study it for the sake of studying. Over here, we are studying human beings, so we have to see how a particular human being has evolved, how we came to the position that we are known as a Homo sapiens. So where are those fossils being found? What were the characteristics of those fossils? And then we study them, and that helps us to understand the human beings better. So we're going to study with the Plio-Pleistocene hominids in South and East Africa, Australopithecines. Then we're going to move on to the Homo erectus and the various branches and where they're located. Then we're going to study the Neanderthals and the various types, the Rhodesian man, and finally the Homo sapiens. And later we'll come on the Homo sapiens that we are there, right? So over here, this topic again, what happens is students think that this is little tough or boring. What happens is the lucky part for lucky you is that questions are very directly asked. What they're going to do is they'll ask you, write a note on Homo erectus. What are the characteristics associated with Homo erectus? What are the geographical distributions of Homo erectus? For that matter, Neanderthal, what are the characteristics and all? So once you make the proper notes, and once the lecture is being delivered to you, it will be easy for you to grasp that, and then you need to revise it. Make sure that you make your notes when you're delivering the lectures. And along with it, when you have the comprehensive study material, probably you will not face much issues, right? For this part, remember, again, P. Nath. See, the sources I'm referring to you is those which you can refer also along with it and learn. P. Nath is one of the major sources. IGNOU, again, is very important source. For reference, refer Ember and Ember here, because it has very good case studies with respect to these. Very interesting book, Ember and Ember, you should have that. And this will be covered very properly. And again, I told you, very direct question comes, so it is very scoring. It is like somewhat mathematics. If you write those points, those technical terms, you are there, and the examiner cannot cut marks. That is why this component of the physical anthropology is really very scoring, and can get really very good marks in this, right? So let's move on to the next topic, that is 1.7, that is the biological basis of life. Again, see, throughout your life till class 10th, if you had biology, probably after that also, you were studying what is cell, how the cell divisions take place, what is mitosis, what are the meiosis, and what are the various dimensions associated with the various cell organelles and dimensions associated with those organelles also. So we're going to study, like, see, the genes, mutation, what is cell, DNA structure, cell division, protein synthesis. See, these are those topics that we have studied. We're going to again recollect why this is important, understand the relevance. If you are studying human being, the basic unit is cell. You're studying that dimension, then you're going to study the various other dimensions. So when I said it is a study of human beings, see, again, studying this concept also becomes very important. Now, another important aspect is, we are not going to study this topic in a manner simply after this topic. No. When we do genetics, we are going to study before that, because it will be a coherence. The issue with anthropology is, like, the way it is arranged now, it becomes a little haphazard. So we are not going to move in a streamlined manner when we are going to study anthropology. We are going to take it in a manner that you understand it well, and along with it covering the syllabus. So 1.7 that deals with cell is going to be covered when we are going to deal with the genetics part, right? Okay. Right. So just a minute. So the next part is, yeah, now this is an important, this is the archaeology, right? Many people think that there is no source, what should we refer, they're referring to this stuff, that stuff, and they're not getting comprehensive answers for that. Just remember one source that I'm going to tell you, along with the lecture notes, which is going to be complemented. If you have IGNOU notes, then you don't have to go anywhere after that. We are going to provide you these prune notes in our comprehensive study material also, but for your reference, you should refer to the IGNOU, which is freely available in the online medium, right? Over here, first is the principles of prehistoric archaeology. What is relative and absolute dating? Dating here means, for example, if you're finding certain fossil, material fossil, or for that human fossil, you need to date it. Date it means how old it is. When we refer to relative dating, basically, it is crude in a manner. Relative dating helps you whether a particular item or entity is older than the other item. It is a reference medium. Like you have to take one item in comparison to the other. Absolute dating actually helps you to find out an approximate age of that particular entity or material remain. So this is basically various methods are going to be there, and we will refer that and explain you in a very proper coherent manner how you have to study that and how the questions are being asked when we study in the lectures. Next is cultural evolution. Now remember, we have Paleolithic, Mesolithic, Chalcolithic, and then we have the Neolithic, and all these stages are there, right? So what happens is that you need to study these very properly, because every year close to 70 to 100 marks indirectly or directly can be asked from this topic. I'm telling you why. You can leave certain in choice, but the paper is set in such a manner. 70 to 100 basically covers paper 1 and paper 2 both, right? Not only paper 1, because this part is actually in paper 2 also. So you cannot leave it. And when we are going to study archaeology, we will study archaeology of paper 1 and paper 2 together. What happens is that is going to help you to interlink them, because in paper 1 also of late, UPSC is asking, write the Paleolithic period or define Paleolithic with reference to India. Now what happens is that is paper 2, but they can ask, that is actually in paper 2 syllabus. So when we are going to study archaeology, we're going to take paper 2 along with it and study archaeological anthropology as a whole together, right? And again, IGNOU is the most important source for that. Next is nature for culture and nature of society. Now these are basic concepts. Remember one thing, before doing 2.1 and 2.2, it is important you do the before doing this, it is important you do the theories of anthropology. What happens is that when you have done that, now every thinker has given definition of culture. Every thinker has presented their view. Now, even if you have not studied this topic, now, if they tell you to define a culture, because you know all the theories, it is very easy for you to define culture and mention the dimensions, right? So the topic of culture and society and the various dimensions associated with them is going to be studied after we have studied the theories of anthropology, right? Next, now when we will begin our lectures, we are basically going to start with this topic, that is the socio-cultural part, which is marriage, family, kinship, then dimensions associated with religion, economic organization, political organization, and then we'll follow that with the anthropological theories, right? So when we study marriage, we're going to study the definition, universality, what are the laws, what are the types, and various things. You can read it when you have the syllabus also, like how is the definition of marriage universal? That means, is the concept of marriage applicable everywhere? For example, if in India we study, or generally when we study marriage, we think a marriage is a union between a man and a woman, right? But in various societies, it might not be applicable. For example, there can be concepts of monogamy, there can be concepts of polygamy, there can be concepts of gay marriages also. Various countries and various cultures have their own understanding and own rules and social regulations. So we need to take that into consideration and understand and study that. Similarly, what are the laws, what are the types, and various regulations and dimensions associated with them. See, we are going to study all these topics. Along with it, we're going to give you case studies, how you have to perceive, understand them, and how to remember them. Again, it becomes very important that you understand the topic well, right? So when we start with the lectures, we're going to start with the topic of marriage and so on. Similarly, family. The various thinkers, they have defined family, what is household, what is domestic group, what are the various dimensions associated with them, impact of urbanization, industrialization, feminist movement. See, again, these topics and syllabus is given in such a manner, if you write and make a note of all these things, you are very well prepared to answer, because there is a limitation with respect to the UPSC syllabus also, because they cannot go into much depth, because they do not want PhD scholars. They want people who very objectively write the answers and meet the demand of the examination, right? Similarly, marriage, family, kinship, these are the topics which we are going to study. Now again, for these, see, there is no comprehensive book for that, but again, EPG Pathshala and IGNOU are one of the very important sources. Along with it, certain case studies can be taken from Ember and Ember. When we are going to provide you with a very comprehensive material, so along with it, these books and comprehensive material, you don't have to go anywhere else for that, and don't have to search and do PhD. You just have to refer. Be objective in your approach. Don't be subjective. Just have a calculative approach of how, in what depth you are going. Because see, what happens with students is they start doing and researching on particular topic and they're not able to complete the syllabus. It is important when a lecture will be taught to you, that very day try to understand and ask the doubts the next day, so that it becomes easier for you to grasp that topic and understand it. And then the more the number of times you revise it, it is going to fit in your head, right? And this is basically family, marriage, family, kinship. Again, economic organization. What is, like, we have to define what is economics is, how it is different from economic anthropology. What are the various views, like substantivist view or the formalist view, debate is there. For example, something that the modern concept of economics can be applicable to simpler societies like tribal. For example, in various societies and tribes, they do not have the concept of money. So why do we think that similar economic concept should be applicable to them? So various debates are there, thinkers have mentioned that. So we will going to study that in this dimension. What the principles governing production, distribution, exchange, what is reciprocity, redistribution, market, and various dimensions associated with them. How globalization is impacting, the simpler societies, the agriculture, and various dimensions associated with them. So we're going to study that under the economic. We're going to study the tribal dimension also, the contemporary dimension also, what are the transition and what are the various debates associated with them. Similarly, political. When we are studying political and social control, we study what have been the previous of simpler societies, what type of political organization they had, how it evolved, what type of social or political organizations are present right now, and how we distinguish them, what are the characteristics associated with them. And we're going to study the concept of power, authority, legitimacy, social control. For example, certain religions might have certain regulations. For example, simple regulation like women not going out at night. Certain control, social regulations are there. What are they? What are the reasons behind them? I'm going to study over here. Concept of justice. For example, when we study courts, laws, and regulations, that are the modern concept of a state. But in tribal societies, they have the different systems, right? So we're going to study and compare them also. So this is going to come in the political organization. Next is the religion. Now, when we study religion, we're going to study the various approaches. For example, what is a psychological approach? What is the evolutionary approach? How the religion evolved? What is the probably linguistic approach also? What are the structural approaches? We're going to study all that dimension, because when we study the theories also, we can correlate them with each of these topics. What are the various types of medical practitioners? Like, for example, for us, a medical practitioner is a doctor, right? For people living in tribal places or simpler societies, they might be having medicine man, sorcerers. You would have very often seen in the movies also, the various types of people come who practice black magic and all. So we're going to study those dimensions also. Again, for all these topics, again, you're going to get comprehensive material for them. You can refer to EPG Pathshala for this, along with IGNOU. These are good sources. See, right now we are not going to read or I'm not going to tell you each and every topic what we're going to do, because when we're going to start with the lectures, we're going to break each topic well and help you to understand how it has to be approached. Today, it is just an overview of what the syllabus is and how the things have to proceed, right? So just an overview for you. Next is the anthropological theories. Just remember, this is the most important part. If you miss this, then probably you haven't studied anthropology, right? This is one of my personal favorite also, because I love these theories. So I'll put my best for you to understand them. What are the theories? Theories basically means what are the views that are being presented by the various thinkers over the time. They might be having different views. For example, an evolutionary view and might be presenting its view. Structural thinkers might be presenting it some other view. For example, for a structural view, they think everything is a structure, complex whole, which has various parts associated with them, and how they are linked to each other and how they are interacting to each other. So Every thinker has their own view, and then we study them. And what happens is, once we have studied all these views well, questions are asked every year. Many questions are asked from this topic. If you have done this well, that means you have a command over the anthropology optional, and we're going to really do this topic very well. So I would hope that you see the lectures well and get a grasp of these topics. Like over here we have the evolutionism, historical particularism, functionalism, structuralism, cultural personality school, new evolution, like this evolved from this, why, what are the differences associated with them, cultural materialism, symbolic, cognitive, postmodernism. Like the concept of post-truth, for example, we study is a postmodernism concept. Why did it evolve, right? If we are studying the concept of studying human being per se, we study what is going on in our brain. So that is a psychological dimension, behavioral aspect. So we're going to study in that personality also. Why certain things being done by human being, why not? What are the views of the thinkers, right? So these are the theories. Remember, this is the most important part of the socio-cultural anthropology. It has to be done really well, and we'll aid you in understanding it really well. For the theories also, if you see, one of the best sources again is the comprehensive material that we're going to do, because there is no specific book. Again, you can refer to EPG Pathshala for that, and along with the comprehensive material that we're going to provide you. Next is culture, language, communication. Just remember that the best source for this is Ember and Ember, along with the comprehensive material that we're going to do. See again why this is important. When we study culture or human beings, how languages have evolved, how there are differences between them. For example, if you're traveling in India, after every few kilometers, you're going to see a new language or a dialect. How languages have been influenced by other languages. What are the differences between them? What are the similarities? How it has impacted our cultural evolution. For example, there's a study like if a child less than 5 years of age is able to understand various languages, the IQ level or the cognitive ability is high. Why? Now see, there's a relationship between the cultural aspect as well as the psychological dimension. So we're going to study that aspect also, like what is the nature, origin, characteristics of language, verbal, non-verbal, social context of language use. For example, certain places, certain words are defined differently. Why? Why that is being said? Why the accents are varying? What the phonemes, morphemes, and various dimensions are there? We're going to study all that in this. Again, Ember is the best source for this. Research methods in anthropology. Again, for this, best source is EPG and IGNOU. Along with it, the comprehensive material that would be provided. See, what basically this means is, over here various topics like fieldwork tradition, distinction between the techniques, analysis and all. See, when we are studying anthropology, for example, let us say we're going to a place and gathering evidences with respect to certain fossil remains and material remains. Now that would be the fieldwork tradition. How are the various methods being done? Like for example, if I am adopting a method of case study, what is case study? What is the concept of observation? What is interview? If I am talking to certain tribal people, asking them about their cultural practices. What is schedule? What is questionnaire? What are the differences between them? So that is going to be preferred. So that means this forms the backbone of anthropology for when we take data or gather information, how it is to be transformed into understanding of the people. For example, whenever we have whenever we collect certain data, for it to be transferred or converted into information, all these research methodologies are applied for gathering them also and for also converting them. Gathering in a sense, for example, if I'm using questionnaire or interview for gathering data, through that I'm using that questionnaire in order to prune it and better understand it, so develop into information. So this is basically the research methodologies. Next concept is human genetics. Now remember when I said we're going to do this topic of cell, when we will do the genetics part. For this topic, best source is Pinath, along with the comprehensive material. You can refer EPG also, but Pinath will suffice for this. We're going to do the topic of cell first, and then we're going to do the various methods, applications and all. But remember here also 9.1, 2, 3 and others till 9.6, they are not going to be done in a manner that has been presented. First, we're going to do what is cell and all. Then we are going to do the Mendelian genetics, and then we're going to do the other parts, and later we'll come to this part. Why? Because see, it is always better to learn ABCD than to define Czechoslovakia first, right? So this is what is the issue with certain syllabus, like it has not been defined in a very streamlined manner, it becomes difficult. So as we over here at PW are going to make you understand the content and syllabus in a manner that is easy for you, right? And along with covering the syllabus. So 9.1, 9.2, 9.3, these are basically what are the methods or genetics, what are the issues, and what are the various laws associated with them and dimensions. So we're going to study them in detail in the chapter of 9.1, 2, 3, and then 4 also, where we're going to study various issues with chromosomes and the issues, diseases is not a correct term, but what are the various aberrations that arise due to the chromosomal aberrations that are there, either due to number or the chromosomes might be missing, and that is going to be covered in 9.4, right? Again, PNAT is the best source, and then 9.5 is actually the application of that. See, because of the various genetics only, the color again has a lot to do with genetics, and because of that we have issues like racism and all. So then we have another topic of racism, biological basis of morphological variations. We're going to study the various traits. For example, certain people might be having certain color, certain maybe people may be tall, short. What are the various, why certain noses are long, why some are flat, why not, why ears are big or short, color of the hair, and various indices associated with them. I'm going to study in this, which is basically an application of the genetics. Again, genetics is one of the major dimension or part of your anthropology, physical anthropology, which needs to be done well. Again, you don't have to do PhD, just restrict yourself to the syllabus, and we're going to aid you in doing this well, right? Next is again 9.6, age population variation. This is a continuation of basically 9.5, which we are going to define them. It's a very simple topic where you're going to, simple topics are like what is ABO group, what are the blood enzymes. They're going to simply ask them in 10 marker, and which we are going to very easily cover this in one day, and quite easy, just need to make notes and that can be done. And with a comprehensive material, I suppose you don't need anything else, but for your convenience, again, EPG Pathshala is the best. Again, ecological anthropology, again, best is given in EPG under ecological section, and always ecological anthropology. Over there, various case studies are given. Again, over here you will be having genetic and non-genetic factors influencing, because see, this is after studying genetics, you're going to move on to this, so that it becomes really very easy for you to correlate with them, because you've already studied those various indices and how the adaptations are taking place, why certain people have taller in some places, shorter in some places, why the size or there is variation in the eyes size. For example, Mongoloids will be having a different structure of the eyes from Caucasides or from Negroids. So all this is going to be studied. These are basically an adaptation of a particular human being. So we're going to study that in detail over here. Again, next is epidemiological, very important, particularly after the post-COVID era. Two type of questions generally asked in this section along with what is mentioned in the syllabus. One is genetics issue, that is old age. Another is lifestyle. So issues can be asked is what are the various genetic issues associated with issues. So you need to mention about old age challenges and everything. Then lifestyle, what are the lifestyle diseases, lifestyle challenges, how can we improve them and all. This is in the epidemiological anthropology, right? Next is concept of human growth and development. Now, this is again a very important topic. This can be covered from PNAT along with the comprehensive material that will be provided. We're going to study all this in a lot of detail. We're going to take lectures properly and help you understand what are the sub parts or sub dimensions associated with them. For each of them, like genetic, environmental, socioeconomic, cultural, nutrition, we're going to give you case studies so that you can elucidate your answer with them, like aging and senescence. Now, aging, for example, if today I'm 1 year old, tomorrow I'm 2 years old, so that is also aging, right? But senescence is some more associated with your old age, specifically when you're biologically you are becoming weak, right? Old age aging is different from the normal aging. So what are the differences between aging and senescence? Human physique, somatotypes, various studies, how they are measured and all. This is all done in chapter number 10, which we're going to study very comprehensively, and many questions are asked every year. Close to 30-40 marks questions are generally indirectly or directly asked from them. So again, it becomes very important for you to study well, right? Then comes 11.1, 11.2, 11.3. These have to be taken in together. See, this is more associated with the dimensions of fertility, fecundity, menarche, menopause, related to women health also. What are the fertility differentials? So every year, again, specifically with respect to 10 markers and 15 markers, a question are asked. These three topics are going to be taken together, and proper case studies are going to be given to you so that you understand what it is and elucidate them with proper examples, right? Last is your applications of anthropology, which I had mentioned a branch called applied anthropology, right? For this, again, EPG Pathshala is the best, because, for example, I'll give you an example. Whenever you're designing a car, whether you're designing a bag, defense equipment, anthropologists are used because they have to study how the structure of human being is, whether the person is going to fit in that car or not, what is convenience for them, right? So all these dimensions have to be taken care of where application of anthropology is there. So whatever you have studied in paper 1 or what, it is basically an application of them. And again, best source is EPG, as I've already mentioned. With respect to source, sports, you will study chronometry ho gaya, and then you have anthropology ho gaya in designing defense equipments and other equipments. With respect to forensic anthropology, a lot of detail is given in EPG Pathshala for that, and various other dimensions like paternity diagnostics is there, medicines. Example, you're studying COVID. In COVID, when times were there, then that time anthropologists were studying them, why there is variation in certain people being more prone to COVID. Why is there a relationship between a blood group and a particular blood group and people getting COVID or not? So all these are basically applications of anthropology, right? This is broadly the paper 1. How you have to study and weigh, a brief overview has been given to you. Rest we're going to do in detail when we start with the lectures. And books, as and when we actually take a topic, I'm going to tell you, though I've already given you an overview what it is and how it has to be done, but we'll break those syllabus into further micro syllabus, and how it has to be done, how it has to be approached, how you can understand it well. That is our task, which we are going to perform to the best of our ability, right? So this was paper 1. Let's move on to paper 2. Now see, remember one thing, when I was telling you about the archaeological anthropology in paper 1, I told you that I'm going to cover that part with paper 1, archaeological anthropology, paper 1. Even when we were studying Neanderthals and all, Homo erectus, this we're going to be covered with that, and 1.1 is going to be covered with archaeological anthropology, right? So that, because see, again, Neolithic, Mesolithic, Chalcolithic, everything is same with respect to India. So these two topics will be covered with them, so that once in a together only the archaeological component is finished, so you don't have any issues with that, and you can actually relate India and the world dimension and perform well and score well in your paper. So this is the first part of paper 2, in which the archaeological part is there, which we're going to cover in paper 1, right? So next is, wait just a minute, yeah, next is ethno archaeology. Along this also, this would be covered with paper 1 when we are doing archaeology. What is ethno archaeology? What are survivals? What are parallels? How certain remains or traditions that are carried out from the previous centuries help us understand that culture or all. We are going to study them. So what that those, like for example, certain remaining cultures are survivals, or how they help us, or how are they important for cultural studies. All is going to be studied in the ethno-archaeological dimension and done in detail. Along with it, again, best sources, EPG plus comprehensive material, and the class lectures and notes definitely are there. Then again, demographic profile of India. This is one of the very easy topics. A very comprehensive material would be given to you, and in the classroom only, what are the ethnic linguistic elements, factors influencing structure and growth. Again, structure and tradition of Indian social system, the Varna, Ashram, Rebirth, Purusha, Rinak. See, just remember one thing, when you're studying the sociological part in paper 2, you can even refer to the IGNOU notes of sociology for certain topics. When we're going to cover the topics, I'm going to tell you in advance, right? What happens is generally UPSC is asking certain questions, certain complex questions with respect to say caste system. What happens is that when sometimes you might not be having any idea. So those questions are taken from certain themes of the sociology part. You don't have to go into detail. That is our task. We're going to tell you in advance what are certain topics and themes you need to prepare. That would be done in class itself. So your task would be really easy, right? Then it is the caste system. Again, what is caste? What are the structural aspect? What is the Jajmani system? How the class, whether the origination of caste has created certain issues, whether it is relevant or not, what is the relevance at present, what is going to be the future of caste system. All these dimensions comprehensively are going to be studied in 3.2. Then sacred complexes, nature, man, spirit complex. For example, if you see banyan tree, it is worshipped in India. What is the reason? Various sacred groves are there, sacred complexes are there, how they are related, what are the sacred specialists, sacred geography, various dimensions are there which you're going to study in this. How man, environment and spirits are associated with each other. All that is going to be studied here. Then again, this is a simple topic, impact of Buddhism, Jainism, Islam on the Indian society. For all these topics, basically, again, EPG is very important along with comprehensive notes and the lectures that we're going to give you. Again, you remember when I had told you about development of anthropology in the first slide, we're going to study the evolution and development of anthropology. This is basically with respect to the India, right? Contribution of 18th century, 20th century scholars and the case studies. With respect to tribal, we're going to do it separately after completing the tribal anthropology. This is again EPG and IGNOU are the best sources, which would be done along with the class notes. Indian village studies, what is village, what are the significance, what are the various patterns in village there, what are the relationship between the people who are there. Then along with it, what are the agrarian relationships, what are the changing patterns, impact of globalization. All this is going to be included very comprehensively when we're going to take the lectures. It overlaps with the sociology optional also, so we're going to take certain good components from there and put it here for you to understand them well. Again, linguistic and religious minorities and the political and economic statuses. Again, this is very direct topic for which proper lectures would be there and material would be there for you. You don't have to go beyond that. Again, indigenous and exogenous processes. For example, concept of Sanskritization. For example, certain castes try to adopt practices of the upper caste in order to elevate themselves higher status, right? What is westernization? What is modernization? What are the differences between them? Then again, concept of media, social change, interplay of great and little traditions. All is going to be covered well. These topics are actually simple. Just understand the concept and there is going to be no issue with that, right? Then comes the tribal. Now students, remember, rather than simply going through that syllabus now, I'm going to tell you something. From 6.1 till 9.3, this is tribal anthropology, right? In that you basically have certain books like Nadeem Hasnain, Tribal Anthropology. Just a minute. Nadeem Hasnain, Tribal Anthropology. This book is good. Even for this socio-cultural part also, again, you have Nadeem Hasnain book for that. You can refer both the books and that is going to be helpful for you along with the comprehensive material and notes, along with the EPG material that is there. Tribal, you in that, see again, whatever you have studied with respect to the socio-cultural thing, you're going to apply that with respect to the tribal aspect. Over here, like we have tribal situation in India, biogenetic variability, linguistic diversities and characteristics with respect to the tribals, right? Problems of the tribals, literacy and all. Again, these are very case study centric things are there. So you, when we going to give the lecture, we're going to give you the case studies so that you actually remember it well and put it in proper words in the examination, right? development projects and their tribal situations. Again, what are the paradox between the development and the habitation issues of tribals, and all various case studies are there. Again, for them, every year a tribal ministry releases their annual report, right? You can actually refer to that and take out the case studies from there, right? Next is again the problems of scheduled caste and scheduled tribes, other backward classes, constitutional safeguards with respect to them. Again, this is more of, you read it in polity also, you can take it from there also, but we're going to give you comprehensive material for that, so don't need to worry. Sociological changes in contemporary tribal societies and modern democratic institutions, development programs, welfare schemes. Again, see, these are very direct, and what are various schemes and programs the government of India has launched. Again, comprehensive material is going to be there for you. We're going to take lectures on that. We're going to do a critical appraisal of these programs, and so that you understand them well. Then concept of ethnicity, what are the various conflicts taking place, for example, in Sudan, South Sudan and Sudan. Why, what are the reason behind them? See, this is with respect to the international level. Over here, ethnicity can be a religious issue, caste issue, whatever be there, regional issues. We can going to take that into consideration, various case studies. Unrest among tribal communities. What are the reasons? Regionalism, demand for autonomy, pseudo-tribalism, right? All these topics are going to be covered in comprehensive detail. Again, we had studied the impact of religion on the Indian society. Again, impact of religion on the tribals. What are the impact? How it has impacted? Good, bad, case studies are going to be done here, right? Tribe and nation state. We're going to give you case studies for that, and then you can probably jot them down, and probably that would meet the demand of this topic. History of administration of the tribal areas. Again, various programs, plans, various schemes, various acts that are there going to be dealt in this topic, right? Again, next is role of anthropology in tribal and rural development. This is a more of application based your understanding, for which we're going to give you notes and lectures which will be easy for you to understand and grasp. Contribution of anthropology to understanding religion, regionalism, communalism, and again this is both application of what you have studied. So what the thing is, till now we have dealt with what anthropology as an optional is, what are the various for that matter divisions in that, how the syllabus is. I've mentioned a few books also. So students, when we're going to study the optional, when the classes are going to start, I'll make sure, and from a representing PW, that we'll make these classes so interesting that you start liking the optional, provided that you understand them also well and you grasp it and put it in your head properly, right? And that will help you to score better marks. Just remember, be simplistic in your approach. Answer writing practice is going to be done, material is going to be provided, all type of assistance is going to be given to you. You just have to put your own effort, and we at PW are going to deliver our best so that we meet a very affordable, along with it quality stuff. Remember, affordable does not mean cheap. Affordable means that you have to give you value for money, and we're going to give you the best product of anthropology that in India no one has it, and that would be presented to you from PW. I, Harpreet Singh, going to present you with the anthropology optional. Hope you enjoyed a little overview. When we start with the lectures, we're going to relish it. Take care. Happy learning.